Alright, welcome to another video, guys. This is Pure Noble. Right now, Season 5 has been around for a hot minute, and it looks like the main meta weapons to use right now is the STG44 Assault Rifle. Now, the reason why I want to make this video is I want to see if there's any other Assault Rifle alternatives that might match up or at least place a close second to the STG44, so let's talk about it. So arguably right now, what makes the STG44 a meta in the weapon selection is the fact that it has the highest overall damage profile compared to like the Holger. I think the Holger is the only one that has similar damage profile, but the thing is, if you compare the rest of the stats, this weapon still surpasses the Holger 26. Second thing too is that it has the most effective damage range. So not only it hits hard at long ranges. So that means you'd be able to beam enemies and take them down from a longer distance. So I took a look at the overall stats for the rest of the weapons and see which one was the very close runner up to the STG44, and the one that stuck out the most we're looking at is the SVA545. So let's take a look at the weapon comparison stats from the SVA545 to the STG44. So right now I'm hovering over the SVA545. So obviously you can see that the SVA545 does not have a good damage profile, so we can't match that up to the STG44 as a close second. The STG44 still has a good damage profile, but the reason why I say that SVA545 is a close second is take a look at the rate of fire. It has a faster rate of fire, it has better recoil control. Look at the gun kick. The gun kick is by 55%, 21% recoil and 6% vertical, along with the rest of the mobility and handling. So the way that I see it, the reason why the SVA545 matches up to the STG44 is not because of the damage profile, but the overall mobility, easier recoil control, and faster fire rate. When it comes to looking at the stats on paper, the only stats that I would mind paying attention to is any stat that goes over 10%. So if you look at handling, right? Very important aspects of handling. You got faster ADS speed, you got faster sprint to fire speed, you got even faster swap speed. So especially in those tight situations where you need to switch to your secondary, I look at swap speed as well. But like I said, this is only the base stat comparison that I'm looking at when it comes to comparing both SVA545 and STG44. But what about when you build it up? What about when you add the 5 attachments? And especially with each attachment, some of the attachments that the SVA545 can counter the weaknesses that it has. Vice versa, the STG44 could have attachments that does cover the fact that it doesn't have good recoil control, that does cover the fact that it doesn't have good mobility or handling. So let's try build up the 545 and the STG44 and let's see the difference. So there's only going to be 2 attachments that I'm going to be comparing the SVA545 to the STG, and that's going to be their barrel attachment and their stock. Reason being is because the underbarrel can still be the same for both weapons, the sonic or the muzzle can be the same for both weapons, and as well as the optic. But the 2 attachments that could help offset both of these weapons and make it better than the other is the barrel attachment and the stock attachment. Now obviously both weapons have several different barrel attachments that you can choose, so I chose the barrel attachments in which gave the most similar weapon stat improvement. So for the SVA545, it's going to be the STB Precision Barrel, and the STG44 is going to be the 792 barrel. Don't tell me to pronounce that F word, I cannot. Both of these barrels helped with damage range, damage velocity, and as well as some type of recoil control. So if you put these stats side by side, let's start with range. So on range side, on the STB, it looks like you're looking at effective damage range, minimum damage range, and bullet velocity increased by 12, 13, and 15%. Now look at the STG792 barrel. It has increase of 15%, 15%, and 18% for the effective, minimum, and bullet velocity stat. So based off the 2 stats that we just saw, even though if both guns equipped their barrels that gave them more additional recoil control and damage range, even then the STG44 still surpasses the SVA545, but still does come in a close second, like I said. So now let's move on to the next attachment, their stock attachments. Now for the STG44, we are looking at the DR79 combo stock, and the SVA545 is the main V6 stock. Both of them are almost exactly the same in regards to the amount of recoil control, because if you look for the main V6 stock for the SVA, 21% gun kick control, horizontal control at 9%, 8% at vertical recoil. Now if you look at the DR79 combo stock, the gun kick is still going to be the same as the SVA, 21%, but for horizontal and vertical, it is additional 11% recoil reduction. So in regards to recoil control, the DR79 STG44 yet again still comes out atop. That follows closely by the SVA545. The only downside that the DR79 combo stock actually gives to the weapon is additional ADS speed and sprint to fire speed, compared to the main V6 stock, which only hinders the sprint to fire speed. Also, one little thing I discovered too, and I don't know if you guys noticed this too, but The SVA 545 and the STG44 both have a Citadel grip that you can equip. You figured with the same name, same type of grip, it's going to be the same type of stats, right? Let's look at the stats for the STG44 Citadel grip. If you look at it, bring it up, it's 10% across the board. 10% recoil gun kick, horizontal, vertical recoil control, okay? Take note of that. Now, if you look at the SVA 545, the Citadel grip as well, right? Same name, click it, equipped it, but guess what? The stats on this, 10%, 7%, 7%, and 6% ADS speed. So even though it is the same grip, same name, the stats are actually different compared to the STG44 Citadel grip. Just a little note for that. I didn't know that. I wanted to let you guys know that too. So pretty interesting. So now that we compared the base stats, right? STG44 winning by just sheer firepower as well as damage range. But the SVA 545, even though may not win in damage, but it's going to be winning in recoil control and mobility. The real thing that actually makes the SVA 545 come to a really close second is how clean the iron sights are. So if you look at the STG44, right? If you look at the iron sights, it's small circle, fairly small. Even if you put a bright colored camo on it, it doesn't really change the color of the iron sight. So for the fact of target precision with iron sight, it is slightly harder compared to the SVA 545. Let's take a look at the SVA now. So now that I got the SVA 545, this is a much cleaner iron sight. It is, I can probably put a better camo on this to show the iron sight a lot more better, but if you look at it, it is an open circle, line down the middle. It is very easy for target acquisition. You combine that with the fact of how good the recoil control is, you are actually having really easy target precision when it comes to shooting down your iron sights. In my opinion, I think that's what makes the SVA 545 good. All right, to summarize everything, guys, we took a look at the base weapon stats. We took a look at the attachment builds that make both of these guns great. We did a comparison of the barrels, comparison of the stock, and had that weird little note about how the Citadel grip has slightly different stats for one another, even though they're the same, so that's a little weird, right? We talked about how bad the iron sight is on the STG44 compared to the SVA 545, which has a cleaner iron sight. So let's kind of go over the pros and cons of both guns, and at the end of the video, what do you guys think? Okay, so starting with STG, the pros behind the STG is just a powerful punching gun. It has a high damage profile, it has a longer damage range out of all the assault rifles, and it has the highest bullet velocity out of all the assault rifles. So that means essentially you don't have to trace your targets, you don't have to lead your shots. More often than not, if you're in the correct ranges, you don't have to do that. But the cons behind the STG44 is it has the slowest fire rate out of majority of the assault rifles. It has a low mobility and handling stat. So this is a very stationary gun. I ideally wouldn't like to use this if you are a movement demon, and you can do your best to extend the effectiveness of it, but at the end of the day, it is not a movement gun. And then of course we have the hard to see iron sights. So moving on to the SVA, the pros for the SVA 545 is you're gonna have better recoil control, a lot more better. We're looking at 55% more gun kick control. You got a faster fire rate. We also have high mobility and handling stats. So your sprint to fire speeds, your ADS speeds, your ADS movement speeds, all of that is gonna be a lot more smoother and better with the SVA 545. And then just like I've shown before, the iron sights with the SVA 545 is a lot more cleaner, a lot more nicer for your target precision. But the cons for the SVA 545 is you're looking at low damage profile, low damage range, and it has a low bullet velocity. So I think when you encompass everything all together, the STG44 is a overall stronger and powerful gun. As long as you know how to control the recoil a little bit better, I think for more of advanced players, this is going to work for them. But if you are a beginner and you are new to Call of Duty and you are just still trying to get accustomed to how recoil works with all these weapons, it's still a viable gun to use and for you to practice recoil control. But like I said, let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Do you guys prefer the STG44, or do you think the SVA 545 comes into a close second? Or if you have any other recommendations, leave that in the comments below. Let me know. All right, thanks guys, take care.